Namaskar. Well, since 1992, December 3 has been celebrated as International Day of People with Disabilities. Now, even though the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted way back in 1948, it was not until the 1970s that recognition of the rights of people with disabilities became a reality. Today, we commemorate the achievements of our Divyang brothers and sisters, and we look at the road ahead to the creation of a world of parity for all human beings. You're with Midday News, and let's begin with the headlines. International Day of People with Disabilities is being celebrated today. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu presents the national awards to people working towards the empowerment of persons with disabilities. Prime Minister tweets government's commitment to an equitable future for Divyangjan. Ship Recycling Bill 2019 to be discussed in the Lok Sabha. The Rajya Sabha discusses the National Capital Territory of Delhi Bill 2019, Dadra, Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu besides SPG Amendment Bill, and the Home Minister Amit Shah will reply to these debates. On the eve of Navy Day, the Naval Chief says that he's able to meet any challenge the Navy, and he says that the Navy is rapidly working on long-term induction of 3 aircraft carrier warship fleet. Political temperatures rise before the second phase of polling for the Jharkhand Assembly. The Prime Minister addresses election rally in Khunti and will shortly arrive in Jamshedpur for the second public meeting. A NASA satellite finds the Vikram lander. NASA releases a picture of the debris of the spacecraft on the moon. Lionel Messi wins his career record 6th Ballon d'Or award. And the American veteran Megan Rapinoe wins the Ballon d'Or in the women's category. Our top story, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu today conferred the national awards on individuals, institutions, organizations, state and districts for their outstanding achievement. This is in the work towards empowerment of Divyangs. The national awards for the empowerment of persons with disabilities were given on the occasion of International Day of People with Disabilities at the Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi. And speaking on the occasion, the Vice President said that the nation needs to study and analyze various dimensions of disability comprehensively. He added that we need to identify the causes of disability and find ways also to deal with them so that each individual is empowered to live a life of dignity. He said that people often see a person with disabilities as an object of sympathy and pity, but what is needed is empathy and support. And he said that it is this feeling of respect that is reflected in the nomenclature which has been given by the Prime Minister when he called the disabled Divyang.
Differently abled persons face severe problems in terms of their social and economic conditions. As we have committed to build an inclusive society, a society that is respected and sensitive to the needs of its most vulnerable sections, we have a onerous responsibility. The government, centre, states, the local bodies, and also the private sector and the NGOs, everybody must perform their responsibility towards this less fortunate brethren. There is urgent need to provide right to nutrition and care to pregnant mothers and young children, also create good and accessible medical facilities across rural India. Early identification of disability is also important. This will enable us to undertake effective interventions from the beginning for rehabilitation measures and empowerment of the affected persons.
And the Vice President further said that education is the key to empowerment of every person, including persons with disabilities. He said that there should be a special focus on inclusive schools and special schools so that each differently abled child gets good quality education. He stressed on the need for harmonizing the immunization and disease prevention programs with the appropriate rehabilitation so that eradication of polio is an excellent example of coordinated efforts. And he also presented the Role Model 2019 awards to the winners. Let's see. Now, the Union Minister for Social Justice and Empowerment, Thawar Chand Gehlot, also presided over this function. Ministers of State for Social Justice and Empowerment, Krishan Pal Gurjar, Ramdas Athawale and Ratan Lal Kataria were also present on the occasion.
हमने नया कानून बनाया है। पहले दिव्यांगों की 7 श्रेणियां होती थी, अब 21 श्रेणियां कर दी गई है। साथ ही साथ सरकारी सेवाओं में, सरकारी नौकरियों में 4% आरक्षण का प्रावधान किया है। शैक्षणिक सशक्तिकरण के लिए, उच्च शिक्षा प्राप्त करने के लिए महाविद्यालयों में 5% आरक्षण का प्रावधान किया है। इनकी ठीक से पहचान हो सके इसलिए हमने यूनिवर्सल आईडी कार्ड बनाकर देने का निर्णय लिया है। ये यूनिवर्सल आईडी कार्ड सारे देश में चलेंगे। किसी भी क्षेत्र में चले जाओ, जहां जाओगे राज्य सरकार की या भारत सरकार की जो योजनाएं हैं उन सब का लाभ इनको मिलेगा।
And Gehlot also lauded Divyangs who have contributed to bringing laurels to the country on international platforms.
5-5.5 वर्षों में दिव्यांगजनों के सशक्तिकरण के लिए एक नहीं अनेक ऐतिहासिक निर्णय लिए हैं, कार्य योजनाएं बनाई है और उन कार्य योजनाओं को कार्यान्वित करने में सफलता प्राप्त की है। इन 5 वर्षों में हमने 7 गिनीज बुक ऑफ वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड बनाए हैं। ये 7 गिनीज बुक ऑफ वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड दिव्यांगों द्वारा आयोजित कार्यक्रम में और उनको उपलब्ध कराई गई सामग्री के लिए हमको मिले हैं।
And on International Day of People with Disabilities, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that his government is committed to keep working towards an inclusive future of the differently abled people. He said that their fortitude and accomplishments in the various fields inspire all. The Prime Minister tweeted, and I quote, "We reaffirm our commitment to keep working towards an inclusive, accessible and equitable future for our Divyang sisters and brothers. Their fortitude and accomplishments in various fields inspire all of us." Now let's take a look briefly at the mandate of International Day of People with Disabilities. It's December 3rd, 1992. That's when the UN had called for International Day of People living with disabilities. And since then, we've had December 3rd as the International Day of People living with disabilities. What does it mean? Not only is it meant for the UN, it's meant for all organizations across the world, everybody. I mean, all organizations, whether private sector, government, all organizations must respect this. Not just a day, it's a call for action every day of the year. I mean, constant action, a change of mindset, a change of the way we think, basically. It recognizes and values the diversity of our global community. It's in all its forms. Also, the importance that we should cherish the role that we play regardless of our abilities. Everybody has a role to play regardless of abilities, and we must learn and understand from experiences of the people with disabilities because they have a lot that we can learn from, and that will create a world which is characterized by abilities, not by disabilities. So it's the mandate is to change the way people think and create a world of parity. Let's look at the history of the way this has changed, in fact, because as I did mention that, in 1948, the UN had adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but it was only up to 1970s disability was viewed as a medical problem. It was not looked at from the social point of view. A social model approach needed to be so that we needed to change, in fact. The social model, what does it do? It respects human rights of the people with disabilities. It respects that because that's the most important thing. So in 1971, in fact, the UN Convention on Rights of Mentally Disabled Persons was adopted, and after that they began to realize that it should be for every form of disability. The UN Convention on the Rights of the Disabled Persons in 1975. So, but it was only in 1992 that we had a day, an international day for people with disabilities. So let's begin our discussion now on this particular program, and we are privileged to have with us in the studio, we have Aba Khetrawal. She is a well-known person who has worked with people with people with disabilities, crossing the hurdles in a sense. Thanks very much, ma'am, for being with us, Khetrawal, ma'am. So let me just ask you very simply, people have to change the way they think, and there's a lot that really requires to be done. Even though, since 1992, the UN has been harping on this. Organizations are supposed to take it up, but we see that, even in our country, for instance, it's taken a long time, for instance, for the roads to be changed so that, they can become disabled friendly, workplaces to be changed so that they become disabled friendly. People really require to think differently. What would you say?
Yeah, the main thing is we need to change the perceptions of the common man, the non-disabled population, what they think about persons with disabilities, and the basic thing starts from the language we use for them, like specially able, differently able, Divyangjan. So we don't need any labels or tags.
Right.
If we want to bring inclusion to the fullest, we need to see the person first rather than the disability. Because when we stress on the disability of a person, it again becomes medical model or charity model.
That's right.
But when we are going by the rights-based model, so we have to see their rights, their right to movement, their right to communication, their right to health. So the perception has to change everywhere, and it is good that we are seeing a change presently, but the change is very slow as there are gaps in implementation. Policies are there on the papers, but actual implementation on the ground is very slow. So we need to fasten them up.
Absolutely. So the problem, would you say, is that actually, we have an infrastructure problem in a sense.
Right.
We have an infrastructure problem.
We are more systemically challenged.
That's right.
Rather than physically challenged.
That's true. And if we look now, at systems of public transport, for instance, that should be the first area where change should be brought about. What would you say, let's look at Delhi itself, which is considered one of the most modern cities in our country, perhaps the most modern city. How disabled friendly is Delhi?
Now it has become quite disabled friendly, but a lot has to be done, because like bus stops, when we go to the bus stops, we see there are ramps, but the ramps are broken everywhere, and there are hawkers there. So the things at the ground level, they need to be changed. Even at the councillors, the municipal councillors, the MLAs, they should, I think, be trained. I'm sorry, I respect our government and our government bodies, but things need to be changed, because the malls are disabled friendly, but the flea markets, they are not disabled friendly. Everybody cannot go to a mall. We have to reach the bus stop. The roads are all broken.
But you see, our cities, ma'am, they are overcrowded in a sense.
Right.
So that would also be a challenge to find an equitable space. Because if we look at, let's say, some of the most advanced cities of the world, there are not so many people around. That way they have the advantage of building infrastructure for disabled friendly, to become disabled friendly and not cause problems to the rest of, let's say, the society. But in our particular, you mentioned flea markets. You mentioned it's going to be pretty difficult to bring in change for things that have just established themselves. They've not been built with any planning in mind, in a sense.
But the future buildings, future areas, they have to be more gender sensitive, non-violent, and inclusive. And unless we raise our voices, I don't think changes can happen.
True.
We have to raise our voice.
So let's look at, first of all, from the point of view of in the work environment itself, a person with living with some form of disabilities comes to work. There has to be a special place for parking for their vehicles.
Right.
That may not be provided in most places. Apart from that, within the organization itself, a disabled-friendly atmosphere for them to be working, a workspace. All this is not really available. I mean, I personally don't see it in the places that I have been to. So that itself would require, I mean, you did mention the systemic problem. It really is a huge problem. It's across the board. I mean, it goes everywhere.
Organizations, they need to be trained. They need to be trained in reasonable accommodations that they can provide, because one size cannot fit all. Different kinds of disabilities, they need different kind of accommodations, like the locomotor disability. Then people with locomotor disability, they need different kind of accommodations. Those who are blind, they need different kind of accommodations.
Right.
So they need to be sensitized.
Absolutely. Now, talking about the roads, pavements, for instance, now that's another area where we see that, areas that have been made specifically for disabled people, for wheelchairs, for people with locomotive problems, those areas are being utilized by cycles and by, motorcycles and things like that, because they want to avoid the traffic.
Yeah.
So there's a question of discipline here.
Yeah,
and who's going to, bell the cat in a sense?
Yeah. That's why I said the implementation is poor. Implementational, in India it is poor. Means the lowest offices, the lowest administration level, they need to be sensitized about that.
Okay, so what would you say now, a day like this, does it do much to change the mindset of people? The mandate is that people change every day. It's not that, you remember just one day of the year.
Yeah.
So since this has happened since the 1970s, the mindset has been changed from a medical model to the social model. To what extent do you think it's happened, across the world has change been brought about, and from there it's filtering into the rest of, let's say, countries which have not accepted the model as well?
Yeah, it also depends how developed a country is. If they have economic resources, if they have awareness, if they are able to spend their resources on the most marginalized sections of the society, I think the change would come fast. But when we talk about the developed countries, they already have infrastructures and they are universally designed. Means the design is like that, it is for everyone, for an old person, for a disabled, for a small child. So it is universally designed, so we don't have to retrofit there. So universal designing is I think it is the only solution. Retrofitting takes a lot of time.
Sure. So crossing the hurdles, as you work, I mean, you are the president of this organization.
Cross the hurdles.
Yes, So basically, how much, let's say, how difficult have you found the going, to get across your message?
It is difficult, even with persons with non-disability and even with persons with disabilities. It is very difficult just to tell them what actually the problem is, because since long we have always been like an object of pity, sympathy.
That's right.
And it is very difficult to change the mindset. Even persons with disabilities, they see themselves as oppressed. So they have internalized that oppression. They cannot come out of it. So it is very difficult to psychologically change them.
Right.
It would take a long time, and I'm really.
So it requires a lot of courage then from the on the part of the people with disabilities to first realize that this world provides an equal platform if they're willing to come forward, and it's not based on pity at all. It's based on their abilities, and they have the abilities.
Yeah.
So
and unless we do that, we won't be able to reach the 2030 agenda, which says no one should be left behind. We should take everyone, like in economic participation, political participation, everywhere.
Right. Are there any specific jobs or that can be earmarked specially for people with disabilities, where they could have an advantage?
There are many jobs. The government has it has a reserved quota, but everybody cannot be included in that quota.
That's right.
So public-private partnership is must. The private enterprises, the corporates, they must come forward in this.
So this is jobs across the board. Let's say, I mean, in administrative jobs, for instance, I think that certain people with disabilities can perform very well.
Yeah.
In all fields, but you know, in some fields where they actually have, let's say, an equal stake or even, you know, a better stake than let's say the regular counterpart. Would you, I mean, are there areas that, you know, the government can identify and say that these areas are actually places where we can employ a lot more of our brothers and sisters who are in this category?
Depends on the kind of disability we are focusing on.
Yes.
If we are focusing on the locomotor disability.
That's right. That's the one that mostly people focus on.
Jobs are good. Right. Or we need to be provided with accommodation.
Right.
Like even with the desk on which we work should be according to the height of the wheelchair. Just an example. So it depends on the kind of disability which the government is thinking of.
Right. So let's take some of the other disabilities now. Let's look at the mental disabilities. To what extent do you think, you know, one can work towards making their life more inclusive?
Yeah. For mental disabilities, there is a whole lot of stigma attached to it. First of all, sensitization again is must, because that stigma, that stereotyping of those people who are always seen as violent or depressed. So that has to go away. The perception has to change there. So we have to remove the attitudinal barriers there first, rather than the architectural for them.
Okay. And what, you know, the Vice President speaks about education itself, you know, right from the stage of education, if that idea of equality comes in right from there, you know, right from the peers themselves treat them as equals, then the world, it's easier to change. You know, it doesn't have to be imposed on you at a particular stage of your life. How would you see that? Do you think that, you know, at the education level, are people with disabilities getting a good deal?
Not much, because schools are not inclusive.
Okay.
A lot needs to be done. Again, at implementation, if we go and see the individual schools, there is negligible amount of accommodations given to the students with disabilities. So things have to be worked there, and the system should come to the needs of the students rather than students being placed in special schools separately. Schools have to be made inclusive properly.
Okay, a final question to you, Ms. Khetrapal. What would you think? I mean, there are targets that, of course, the world is looking to create parity for all people, and moving away from, you know, looking at people with disabilities to looking at everyone with abilities. When do you think we can actually realize such a goal?
We have realized it theoretically.
Okay.
But practically, we need to do much at present, and in future I think we would be able to achieve the 2030 agenda, but things have to move fast. We are quite slow in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Abha Khetrapal, the president of Cross the Hurdles, joining us here on International Day of People with Disabilities. Thanks very much, ma'am, for being with us.
My pleasure.
Moving on to our next story then, the Chandrayaan-2 Vikram lander, which crashed onto the surface of the moon in September, has been found by NASA. The US Space Agency confirmed this on Tuesday. At the same time, NASA lauded a Chennai-based techie who helped it trace the debris of India's lunar mission by spending hours comparing before and after images of the landing site. The US Space Agency released a mosaic image of the site on September 26, which was taken on September 17, inviting people to compare it with images of the same area before the crash to find signs of the lander. The first person to come up with a positive identification was the Chennai-based IT professional Shanmuga Subramanian, who confirmed the identification of the crashing site of Vikram by comparing before and after images. After receiving this tip, the LROC, that's the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter Camera, the team there confirmed the identification by comparing the before and after images. So the debris, first located by Shanmuga, is about 750 meters northwest of the main crash site, and NASA has confirmed this. On October 3, in fact, Subramanian had tagged the Twitter handles of NASA, the LRO, as well as ISRO in a tweet saying, "Is this the Vikram lander?" And on November 17, he further zeroed in on his observations and he tweeted out that the possible crash site of the lander. Now, as it turns out, Subramanian was spot on with his inferences, and now NASA has lauded him for finding the lander. On September 7, the Indian Space Research Organization attempted a soft landing of the Vikram on the moon. However, ISRO lost contact with Vikram shortly before its scheduled touchdown.
NASA publicized this image on their blog on September 17. So after looking at NASA's blog and NASA's statement, they are not able to find it because it's hidden in shadows. I downloaded that 1.5 GB of image to my system and I compared it side by side with both old and new images of LRO. And I was able to find something that was out of ordinary in a particular spot. So I thought this might be the debris because it's something that's not there, that has not been seen in the previous images, whatever I have seen. So I tweeted it out to them on October 3rd, and after that, I also sent a mail to them on October 18th. And after that, I got a confirmation from NASA today morning.
Fascinating. Now, the Naval Chief, Admiral Karambir Singh, has assured the nation that the Navy is fully prepared to deal with national security challenges. Speaking at the annual Navy Day press conference in New Delhi, Admiral Singh answered queries on the challenges in the neighborhood and said that no action of any other player in the region should impact us. Let's listen to what he said.
Here's Navy Week theme, which is silent, strong and swift. I would like to assure the nation that as the primary instrument of India's maritime power, the Indian Navy will continue to play a decisive role in providing effective response across the full spectrum of challenges in our maritime domain and ensuring national prosperity.
Well, the Navy is procuring 41 ships, and its long-term plan is to have 3 aircraft carriers to turn into the true blue water force that people want it to be. Now, 50 warships and submarines of the Indian Navy are under construction, of which 48 are on order in Indian shipyards.
The Navy's long-term capability plan envisages induction of 3 aircraft carriers so that 2 CBGs or carrier battle groups are available for dispersed deployment in the IOR at all times. The broad contours of the IAC-2, for your information, to be constructed in India, it will be a 65,000 Cat-O-Bar carrier with electric propulsion. So these broad contours have been formulated and the case will be processed for accord of A1. To this pursuit is seen by the fact that out of the 50 ships and submarines currently under construction, 48 are being built in Indian shipyards. And these include the aircraft carrier Vikrant, the P-15 Bravo class destroyers, P-17 Alpha class stealth frigates, offshore patrol vessels and the Scorpion class submarines. The last of the P-28 ASW corvette is scheduled for delivery by early next year.
And Admiral Karambir Singh also said that the first indigenous aircraft carrier, the IAC-1, should be fully operational by 2022, and it will operate with the MiG-29K. He further said that the letter of acceptance from the US for 24 MH-60R, that's multi-role helicopters, is here, and the deal is expected to be signed soon. He also added that the Indian Navy has thwarted 44 piracy attempts and apprehended 120 pirates during its anti-piracy operations. Let's listen.
See, all the shipbuild issues of IAC are over now. I mean, the basic shipbuilding, etc. Now we have gotten into the trials, the basin trials for the machinery, etc. So we are almost certain that we'll take delivery by about February, March of 2021. Once we take delivery, then we'll get our aviation assets going to do the trials, because she has to go to sea and things like that. So that I expect will take a year or so, and we should have a fully operational carrier by 2022.
Well, it's been 35 years to the day. We're talking about the Bhopal gas tragedy, one of the world's worst gas industrial disasters that occurred on the intervening night of the 2nd and 3rd of December 1984. The tragedy claimed several innocent lives and left lakhs with serious health complications. It was around midnight that the chemical reaction started in the Union Carbide India Limited pesticide plant in Bhopal in Madhya Pradesh. The poisonous gas, methyl isocyanate, it started to leak And this happened from one of the tanks. It spread to the rest of Bhopal city, can you imagine, killing people both awake and asleep. The severity of the situation intensified because the alarm system of the UCIL did not work for several hours. And the next day, people complained of breathing disorder, itchiness in their eyes, rashes, sudden blindness, and they were clueless about what was happening. Now, the gas caused internal hemorrhage, it caused pneumonia and death. Thousands of survivors of the gas tragedy continue to face appalling lack of healthcare facilities. Activists on Monday flagged the neglect of the Bhopal Memorial Hospital and Research Center set up especially for the survivors. Vice President Venkaiah Naidu today launched the new the rotavirus vaccine, Rotavac 5D, which is a registered trademark, and it's designed and developed by Bharat Biotech in New Delhi. Now, on the occasion, the Vice President said that he believed that Rotavac is an example of a true social innovation that was realized through a partnership between scientists from India and the United States. He also added that India is committed to the goal of protecting the health of each and every one of its children. Venkaiah Naidu added that India is firmly committed to ending morbidity as well as mortality in children because this is caused by diarrhea by 2022. And, well, the first generation rotavirus vaccine, Rotavac, developed under the public-private partnership with the Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, has put India on the global map for setting new standards in pharmaceutical research and development.
The healthcare practitioners, to media and civil society to partner with the government in spreading awareness about vaccination and addressing the apprehensions. I am happy to note that the Government of India is in the forefront of universal immunization program and has included Rotavac or in its immunization drive by providing vaccines to infants and children. India is firmly committed to ending morbidity and mortality in children caused due to diarrhea by 2022.
The BJP Parliamentary Party meeting was held at the Parliament building, the library building that is, today, and the BJP President Amit Shah, also Union Ministers Rajnath Singh, S. Jaishankar, Prahlad Joshi, Jitendra Singh, besides others, attended this important meeting. Now, the Rajya Sabha is currently discussing the Special Protection Group Amendment Bill 2019. It was moved by the Union Home Minister Amit Shah to amend the Special Protection Group Act of 1988 as passed by the Lok Sabha. The Union Home Minister will also move the Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu Merger of Union Territories Bill 2019. The third bill is the National Capital Territory of Delhi, a recognition of property rights of residents in unauthorized colonies Bill 2019. The bill, which will be moved by the Union Housing and Urban Affairs Minister Hardeep Singh Puri, it aims to provide special provisions for the National Capital Territory of Delhi for recognizing property rights of residents in unauthorized colonies. Now, Biyant Singh's grandson and MP Ravneet Bittu questioned Home Minister Amit Shah for the exemption of capital punishment of the criminal Balwant Singh Rajwana. This is in the Lok Sabha, and while replying to that question, Amit Shah said that the culprit's punishment for the murder of the former Punjab Chief Minister Biyant Singh has not been waived. Balwant Singh was sentenced to death on the 1st of August 2007 by a special CBI court of Chandigarh in connection with the murder of the former Punjab Chief Minister Biyant Singh.
कल ही दोनों सदनों ने रेप के ऊपर फांसी की बात की लेकिन सर हम जो फांसी, अमित शाह जी प्लीज मेरा उत्तर
क्वेश्चन
दीजिए,
नंबर 203
आपने पंजाब वालों को क्यों बलवंत सिंह राजवाने को फांसी माफ की है? आपने बार बार टेलीविजन नंबर 203
एक मिनट, एक अब आप सुनो गृह मंत्री जी का जवाब। अब प्लीज मीडिया रिपोर्ट पर न जाइए, कोई माफी की नहीं गई।
And our correspondent Amritpal Singh now joins us with an update from Parliament. Amrit, so there are lots of issues then in Parliament today, plenty to be discussed, the Home Minister to reply. Looking at this session as a whole, how would you think things are moving smoothly for the government in a sense?
Well, yes, today was a smooth conduct, and right now there's a discussion going on the SPG amendment bill. The Home Minister, Amit Shah, is present in the Rajya Sabha. The Congress essentially is trying to raise the issue, saying that this is a political move because the amendment now provides for withdrawal of SPG security from the family members of a former Prime Minister. The amendment, the essential act of the amendment is that the SPG cover will remain for the Prime Minister and the immediate family members of the Prime Minister residing at the official residence of the Prime Minister, and also for a former Prime Minister for a period of 5 years from the date he ceases to hold office, and his immediate family members. But if the security cover is withdrawn from a former Prime Minister, the security cover will stand withdrawn from his immediate family members as well, and also from those who do not reside at his official residence. Now, while the government argues that this is essentially to make the SPG a more effective organization, the Congress is saying that this is a political move to withdraw, because this comes in the wake of withdrawal of SPG security cover from Sonia Gandhi, Priyanka Vadra and Rahul Gandhi, and also former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. So they're seeing politics into it, and that's the discussion that's going on right now in Rajya Sabha. In Lok Sabha, right now, which has just convened about 2-3 minutes back at 2:30, they're discussing the shipping, the recycling of the shipping bill, which has been introduced in the Lok Sabha. So that is what is going on in both houses of Parliament, Mark.
Yes, Amrit, but with regard to the SPG amendment bill, the key question really is about the threat perception to the individual who is being protected. And in a sense, obviously, the sitting Prime Minister has there is a massive threat perception surrounding that. The aspect of threat perception has been gone into, hasn't it? And after that only has it been withdrawn and brought down to Z+ category. Isn't the threat perception aspect still a part of the bill?
Well, the threat perception was part of the 1988 bill. It remains to be there, but the amendment sought is that earlier it said that if the threat perception is continuing in nature, the SPG protection cover will be provided to a former Prime Minister and the members of his immediate family residing at his official residence. Now it said, it didn't say residing at his official residence earlier. It said of a threat perception from a terrorist or a military, of a terrorist or military nature and continuing in nature. But now the amendment seeks to put that it will only be for a period of 5 years. From the date a former Prime Minister ceases to hold office, and in the case of withdrawal from the former Prime Minister, or in the case of, say, as in the case of Sonia Gandhi, the death of a former Prime Minister, it shall be withdrawn immediately. So the family members can only avail it if the former Prime Minister still has it.
Right.
That is the key amendment, and that's where the politics is being seen. But the government says that the SPG cover is withdrawn, total security is not withdrawn, it is brought to Z level.
So, Amrit, when is the Home Minister likely to reply? The time, I mean. At what time?
Well, this discussion will go on till the evening, and after that we could expect the Home Minister, once the other speakers who have asked to speak, once they complete, the Home Minister will give a reply on this. The Lok Sabha, as you know, has already passed it on the 25th of last month, and once it gets passed in the Rajya Sabha, then the SPG Act will come into effect and become amended.
Amritpal, thank you very much for joining us from Parliament. Moving on to our next story then, and in Tamil Nadu, the normal to heavy rainfall continued. It's battering various parts of the state. The upper air circulation, along with depression in the Arabian Sea, threw normal life out of gear In more than 10 districts, the Chief Minister, Edappadi Palanisamy, is scheduled to visit the rain-hit western districts today. As many as 27 people have died in various rain-related incidents in the state. This has happened since the 29th of November. And a holiday has been announced for schools in Perambalur, in Ramanathapuram, in Sivagangagai, in Pudukottai, Arivayalur, Tiruvarur and Tuticorin districts. Vehicular traffic was paralyzed. This happened on one of the highways in the Nilgiris district following landslides at 12 locations due to rain. And one of the worst hit areas, in fact, was Marapalam, where many trees were uprooted. Meanwhile, the weather office in Chennai has forecast light to moderate rain at a few places over the south and west Tamil Nadu, and also isolated places over the northern parts of Puducherry. This is for today. The Met Office has also said that Mettupalayam received the highest rainfall. It was 18 centimeters in the last 24 hours. That was followed by Kunnur in the Nilgiris and Palaviduthi in Karur with 13 centimeters each. And Philip Matthews is joining us with an update. Well, Philip, when are we going to see the rains coming to an end? Or this actually happens regularly, isn't it, at this time of the year?
Well, Mark, I can tell you that as far as Chennai is concerned, the rains clearly have come to a close, at least for the time being.
Yes.
In fact, the sun has come out today after a gap of 2 days, and it's bright and sunny, as you can make out. And at the moment, there's no threat of any rains as far as Chennai is concerned. Yes, in the outlying districts, especially in the south, in places like Rameshwaram, Thoothukudi and other places, and in the western districts like Coimbatore and Erode, we are getting reports of rain, intermittent showers, but the weather is expected to improve over the next couple of days, and that is a matter of relief for people who've been struggling under the deluge for the last 3 days or more.
Right, and also what about the advisory for fishermen? Because after all, it is their livelihood, and if they're not allowed to go into the sea for several days, it's quite a blow.
Well, there is a low pressure area still off the Cape Comorin coast and another just close to Lakshadweep. So given the fact that you have two low pressure areas, the Met Office has advised fishermen to stay away from the sea for the time being, for the next few days at least, because they believe the seas will be rough, and it wouldn't be advisable for the fishermen to go out to sea. So at least for the next few days, I think fishing activities will remain suspended. In fact, in Rameshwaram, a number of boats were damaged due to these waves. Most of these boats were parked just close to the shore, but the waves actually hammered them right onto the beach, and many of them were actually damaged. So that is another issue that concerns the fishing community. So many of them will not be very keen to go out to sea in this weather.
And talking about damage, Philip, heavy rains like this cause a lot of damage. Is there an assessment of the damage done, in terms of infrastructure lost? We know 27 lives have been lost. What kind of damage did these rains cause?
Well, there have been reports of damage coming in from tiled houses, for instance. Many tiled houses are reported to have suffered damage. So a count is being taken in many districts now. That will probably begin in a day or so. But preliminary estimates are that a number of cattle have lost their lives here and there. But given the fact that these rains are in a sense par for the northeast monsoon,
yes,
the state government has been prepared to deal with the challenge. It has teams in place in every district, teams comprising of PWD, revenue, health and agriculture officials, to ensure that life gets back to normal at the earliest. Adequate stocks of fuel and medicines and other requirements have been put in place. Community kitchens have been opened.
Right.
Even relief centers have been set up in the affected districts to ensure that people can get back on their feet at the earliest.
And drainage and flooding, issues like that?
Well, there are reports of flooding in districts like Ramanathapuram and Thoothukudi. In fact, just this morning we got reports of flooding from in low-lying areas in Rameshwaram. But we are told by the authorities that efforts are underway and that all efforts have been made to ensure that these areas are drained out at the earliest. In fact, pumps have been placed at strategic locations to ensure that the water can be pumped out as quickly as possible,
Right.
so that people can get back to their normal lives.
Philip Matthews, thanks very much for that update from Chennai. Moving on to our next story then, President Ramnath Kovind today paid homage to Dr. Rajendra Prasad. He's the first president of India on his birth anniversary at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. The president, as well as the officers and staff of the president's secretariat, paid floral tributes before the portrait of Dr. Rajendra Prasad in the Darbar Hall of Rashtrapati Bhavan. And the Prime Minister is campaigning for the elections in Jharkhand. Let's go across live to Jamshedpur and listen to what he's saying for a while.
मैंने आपसे कहा था कि हमारी सरकार दिल्ली में सिमट कर रहने वाली नहीं है। हम एसी कमरों में फैसले करके चैन से सोने वाले लोग नहीं हैं। भाजपा की सरकार ने केंद्र सरकार को दिल्ली से बाहर निकालकर देश के कोने कोने तक पहुंचाया है। दशकों से चली आ रही इस व्यवस्था में परिवर्तन का बहुत बड़ा लाभ झारखंड को मिला है। आज झारखंड भारत के इतिहास की कुछ क्रांतिकारी योजनाओं की गंगोत्री बना है, उद्गम स्थली बना है। भाई और बहनों, आयुष्मान भारत योजना जो दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस स्कीम है, इसकी शुरुआत का गौरव झारखंड के खाते में है। एक साल में ही देश के 60 लाख से अधिक गरीब मरीजों को, जिसमें करीब 2 लाख तो मेरे झारखंड के ही हैं, इनको गंभीर बीमारी की स्थिति में मुफ्त इलाज मिल चुका है। देश के किसान को, खेत मजदूर को, छोटे दुकानदार को 60 वर्ष की आयु के बाद निश्चित पेंशन योजना की शुरुआत का गौरव भी झारखंड को मिला है। देश के करोड़ों किसानों और छोटे व्यापारियों को 3,000 रुपये की पेंशन की इस योजना से बुढ़ापे का सहारा मिल रहा है। इतना ही नहीं, 2022 तक देश के हर आदिवासी बाहुल्य ब्लॉक तक एकलव्य मॉडल स्कूल बनाने के अभियान की शुरुआत भी इसी झारखंड से हुई है। इसके अलावा झारखंड की धरती से ग्रामोदय से भारत उदय का सफल अभियान भी शुरू किया था और इस साल अंतर्राष्ट्रीय योग दिवस का मुख्य कार्यक्रम भी झारखंड में किया गया। राज्य को देश और दुनिया में नई पहचान दिलाने का श्रेय आप सभी को है। रघुवर जी और भारतीय जनता पार्टी की टीम को है। साथियों, आज झारखंड की बुलंद पहचान देश और दुनिया में है, लेकिन जरा एक बार 5 साल पहले की क्या स्थिति थी उसको जरा याद करिए। कांग्रेस और जेएमएम के राज में यहां से सिर्फ और सिर्फ भ्रष्टाचार की खबरें आती थी, लूट की खबरें आती थी। इन दलों के अनेक शीर्ष नेताओं पर आज भी भ्रष्टाचार के केस अदालतों में चल रहे हैं। अपने स्वार्थ के लिए, भ्रष्टाचार के लिए इन्होंने मुख्यमंत्री पद की कुर्सी तक का सौदा कर दिया था। उस दौरान यहां क्या क्या खेल खेले गए, इसकी जानकारी आप सभी को है। भाइयों और बहनों, 5 वर्ष पहले तक झारखंड राजनीतिक अस्थिरता के लिए भी चर्चा में रहता था। सिर्फ 15 साल में जमशेदपुर के पढ़े लिखे लोग पूरे झारखंड में ये बात पहुंचाइए। सिर्फ 15 साल में झारखंड ने 10 बार मुख्यमंत्रियों को बदलते हुए देखा है। 15 साल में 10। मैं गुजरात में मुख्यमंत्री था, 13 साल अकेला था। और उस स्थिरता का परिणाम है कि आज गुजरात कहां से कहां पहुंच गया। यानी जितनी तेजी से झारखंड का मौसम नहीं बदलता था, उतनी तेजी से यहां मुख्यमंत्री बदल दिए जाते थे। इस अस्थिरता के लिए भी मूल रूप से कांग्रेस और जेएमएम के नेताओं का स्वार्थ, सिर्फ स्वार्थ, निजी स्वार्थ, यही जिम्मेदार रहा है। लेकिन भाजपा ने अस्थिरता के इस दौर पर रोक भी लगाई और पहली बार 5 वर्ष तक एक ही मुख्यमंत्री झारखंड को दिया।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi, they're campaigning for the Bharatiya Janata Party in Jamshedpur for the Jharkhand Assembly elections. Now, in Midday Prime, it's time for news and updates from the world of business. And Nancy has all those updates. Over to you, Nancy.
About the Monetary Policy Committee meeting, the Reserve Bank of India's bi-monthly Monetary Policy Committee meeting that started. In fact, the 3-day meeting of the central bank has started today and the policy statement is due on Thursday. Economists are expecting the RBI's Monetary Policy Committee to cut the repo rate at which the RBI lends to banks by 25 basis points to 4.9% while maintaining an accommodative stance. And the share depositories have transferred the majority of shares owned by the clients of Kari Stock Broking back to their demat accounts after a directive from the market regulator SEBI. The shares that were illegally pledged with the lenders were deposited back into the investors' accounts before Kari's creditors could stake claim. Bajaj Finance, one of the lenders to Kari, has challenged the SEBI directive in the Securities Appellate Tribunal. An update on the stock markets. The benchmark equity indices on the BSE and the National Stock Exchange continue to trade around 0.5% lower in the afternoon trade today, weighed by metal and banking stocks. Among the NSE sectoral indices, the Nifty Metal Index and the Nifty PSU Bank Index were each trading over 2.5% lower. The broader market indices on the BSE have underperformed their benchmark peers in the afternoon session of the trade. And the Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has stressed that India is currently going through a phase where we are responding to challenging times. Addressing the India-Sweden Business Summit, the minister took the opportunity as well to invite both Indian and Swedish businesses to exchange innovative ideas.
So innovation is an area in which India spends a lot of time. I invite most of the Indian and also Swedish businesses to spend time with each other on promoting innovative ideas. The Government of India has also made it possible for Indian innovations by improving on the patents. Many youngsters who've started startups have also received a lot of tax and other related concessions. I would think that Swedish business houses should engage a lot of these young minds who can possibly work with the same spirit and culture with which Swedish businesses have prospered. After all, innovation brings a great deal of value addition to any business.
And that's all the business news this afternoon. Mark, it's back to you for the rest of the news.
Thanks very much, Nancy. And now let's take a look at what's making news across the globe. News about the weather, really. A blizzard-like blast from a storm that has been raging across the United States since before Thanksgiving slammed the Northeast on Monday. Snarling travel ahead of the evening rush hour, and the New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has declared a state of emergency and deployed 300 members of the National Guard. Airline problems also had more than doubled by midday. More than 4,000 U.S. flights have been cancelled. The storm that rolled across the entire country, drenching some areas with rain, blanketing others with snow, and blasting still others with winds. Now, 3 tornadoes were reported northwest of Phoenix. And the travel firm services, that's Thomas Cook, has said on Tuesday that it had entered into a pact with Thomas Cook UK's appointed special managers, Alex Partners, to acquire the rights of the iconic brand for Sri Lankan and Mauritian markets. The travel firm signed an agreement for the complete ownership of the brand name across these markets for a one-time payment of 13.9 crore rupees, though it was previously contracted to pay an annual brand license of 2 crore rupees to Thomas Cook UK until 2024 for the usage of the brand. In addition to Thomas Cook, the Thomas Cook India Group also operates leading B2C and B2B travel brands, including SOTC, Asian Trails, Australian Tours Management, among others. And come Christmas season, the White House has its own way of celebrating this festival, giving a sneak peek into what goes into the presidential house. The First Lady, Melania Trump, showed the Christmas decorations as the Trumps celebrate their third Christmas with the display, the Gold Star family tree decorated by families who have lost immediate relatives in a military action. This year's theme is the Spirit of America. It pays tribute to the traditions, customs, and history that make America great, according to the White House news release. And that's all we have for you in Midday Prime today. Thanks very much for being with us. Namaskar.